So welcome to episode 7 of the OSO Spurs podcast, where today we are joined by Dan.
Hello.
Stuart.
Evening all.
Deej.
Hello.
And a special guest and Milan supporter, Luca.
Thank you so much. Ciao, guys.
Thanks very much. So we're going to start, obviously, and just brush over quickly that shit show that we had yesterday on the weekend, and I'm sure Luca will also be touching on Milan's equal mess of a match they had on the weekend. So lots of miserable people on the podcast today, but let's just jump into it quickly. I want to hear a few people. What were their views of it? Where does this leave us? And where do you think we turn from here? So, Dan, I'll throw you in the deep end on your debut pod. Where's your head at the moment?
It's unbelievable, isn't it? You know, as we were just saying a minute ago, you just can't. We're just not having any luck. We're not having the run of the luck. You know, I think the Wolves game proved it. But I think the Wolves game really highlighted the errors of this season, and it's our coaching staff. You know, we had a brilliant first half. We didn't have the chances to let go away. You know, with Porro hitting the ball on the free kick, you know, we didn't capitalise on a few chances in the final third because we do lack that creativity going forward, but we looked better. You know, I think all of us at half-time was pretty confident, but we all also knew that this is going to go one way and they're going to get a late winner. And when you saw Wolves have that change and they start pressurising us and they're coming at us and we just didn't respond. And our first sub being Lucas Moura, who has been out injured now for pretty much all season. He's going at the end of the year. We've got Dan Juma on the bench, you know, and we saw in his first game in the FA Cup, hungry, you know, wanting the ball at his feet, wanted to run at people. He was, you know, you saw him, you know, beckoning and shouting at other people when he didn't get the ball. You know, so it shows how passionate the boy is. Why did we give him a chance? And we just didn't respond. And I don't believe that's all Stellini. I believe that's come from Conte through his management team, and they're all just following what Conte has put in. And it just really highlighted how I think he has to go now. Like, he has to go. I cannot see how we come back from this. We're just playing such bad football. We're sitting back so deep. I mean, Sheffield United, I don't want to keep going backwards, but we sat back against Sheffield United. And I know there's a lot of noise about players' mentality, and Stellini highlighted the player mentality, and that really frustrates me because I coach myself, and you instill that into the side. You instill that culture, that mentality, that mindset. You set them up in a certain way, and they have been set up to play that way. And think how much frustrating that must be for players that want to go and attack, that want to play free-flowing football, and you're told that when they get possession, you transition and you drop back. And you sit back and you win the ball deep, and then we go on a counter attack. And it's the same 3 or 4 passes, you know, into midfield, out wide, into Kane, over the top to Son. And that's it. I think that's where our poor mentality comes from. I think that's where it's frustrating, you know, and it's just that Wolves game just massively highlighted our issues this season.
Yeah. I think those are views that are very much reflected across social media over the last 24 hours. And as soon as you said it's time for a manager change, and once everyone's had their turn to speak, I really want to hear Luca's opinion as someone who follows Serie A. What they're reporting with Conte, is he a famous name they want back in the country? Do we seem like madmen trying to get him out our club, given his history in Serie A?
I was just discussing about it yesterday with Stuart, or 2 days ago. There are a lot of rumors about Conte coming back, both for, I would say, football reason and family reason. I think he's not happy there. He's also, as you know, as all of you know, there's some healthy issue and so on. He was he's not happy, I think, and he's not able to transfer all the energy he had in the past in other team to the Spurs players, I think. So it's basically sure that he will come back. I'm not sure if he will be before summer or after the summer. We realize. So most of the Italian, let's say, football fans are always following Premier League. So basically all the matches, so we know a lot of things about him, about Guardiola, about Klopp, about the moment up and down of the various team. And we are thinking, so a lot of people are thinking that the love story, I don't know if any of you started, but is ended between Conte and the Spurs. So everyone is talking that he's coming back, and there are also rumors already that he's going to, let's say, take a chance for Juventus. But Juventus is in a trouble because they still don't know if they will be in Serie A or in Serie B next year because of some balance sheet issue. But he's for sure coming back.
He can't really lose at Juventus, as I see it, though. The expectations will be so low that...
What is really surprising me is seeing Antonio Conte this year not so crazy on the bench, powerful, tenacious, bold as in the past. Last year, everyone as in front of us when he was shaking the hand with the Chelsea manager, with Tuchel. But this year is different. I don't know if it's only for healthy reason, for mindset, or because he lost some pathos. I don't know, but it's different. It seems calmer.
What do you think might be?
He's been through a lot. He's been through a lot, hasn't he? Sorry. He's been through a lot, hasn't he? You know, give the guy some due. I know we're kind of all annoyed at him in a minute, but he has been through a lot. You know, he's lost some of his best friends recently. His health's down. His family are in Italy. He's living in a hotel. You know, you've got to give the guy some credit for sticking with us through that. So you can't fault him for that at all. You know, and like, I think you hit the nail on the head perfectly the other day when you said, you know, all due respect to him, we respect him. I don't think the love's lost. Shake hands. Thank you. It didn't work out. Let's move on.
Goodbye. Yeah, but I want to ask you a question, guys. He was loved by the Spurs fans since the beginning or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so he lost. Okay.
Yeah, I think, I mean, especially last season, people loved him. The football towards the end of the last season was fantastic. I think it went wrong when he started going on a bit too much about more or less how we should be grateful that he's with us. The football was appalling. The players he brought in haven't been great. The refusing to play Spence because it wasn't the player he chose, even when the two right backs he was playing ahead of him were awful game after game after game. His refusal to make a substitute before the 80th minute. I mean, you name it, this season, everything's been going wrong.
Bazuma as well. Bazuma didn't get a look in either.
Yeah, exactly. And you know Conte, it's all about emotion for him. And I think he could feel the lack of emotion and the frustration with the fans. And Conte is more stubborn than probably anybody else in Italian football. And if you push him, he refuses to admit that he's wrong, and he just digs his heels in.
Yeah, that's it.
And
yeah.
Deej is quite tactically astute, I would say. So, Deej, what do you make of the reasons why this year's been less successful under Conte than last year? You've highlighted Perisic a few times and how that's impacted Son.
Yeah, I think it's just a squad that doesn't quite fit with the way that Conte wants to play. And I think it's interesting because I think last season, because we didn't have a summer with Conte, I think that may have actually kind of worked in our favor because he had to, in his mind, adjust to the players we had. And that's kind of reflected in like our performances, because going back and looking at how we played last season under Conte, we had, I mean, obviously we made top 4, which, you know, whether or not we deserved that after the start we had with Nuno, but, you know, we played very well under Conte for most of the time. And then this season, it just feels like watching the same game over and over again. And honestly, like, I'm not, like, I know that our defense gets a lot of stick, but I'm not even sure if they're, like, that much of an it. Because, like, we make stupid mistakes in defense, and I'm not saying we shouldn't upgrade. but at the same time, like we're losing these games. We lost both of these games 1-0. Like, what more can you ask a defense to do, really? Like, we should be scoring twice against Wolves. We should be scoring twice against Sheffield United's B team. And that's kind of reflected in both like the scoring numbers of everybody but Kane, and also the like underlying stats of expected goals. Expected goals are obviously not a perfect stat by any stretch of the imagination, but they're a pretty good indicator, I think, of getting players in good positions. And every single player on our team, including Kane, has had their XG go down this season from last season, where last season included the stint with Nuno. So
I think as well, I've mentioned it before, that on the Amazon, what's it called? The
all or nothing.
All or nothing.
All or Nothing. Thank you very much. The Italian one where Juve was highlighted. Pirlo won twice against Conte.
Yeah.
And he said in the All or Nothing, Conte's teams play exactly the same way every time. All you need to do is understand the schemes he sets up, and you can stop them. And I think that's the difference this season versus last season, is the managers in the Premier League have cottoned on to what we want to do, and they've stopped
100%.
us.
Yep, 100%. And I think that's where the mistakes come from, because, you know, we sit so deep that all you've got to do is pressure us and force a mistake. You know, look at the goal we conceded against Wolves. Everybody just sat back. There wasn't one person pressurising that ball on the edge of our area, which I know many people are going to say, well, that's on the players. You know, and that's on the player. There's an opposition with the ball on the edge of the area. We should be closing down and pressurising them. But that, in their mindset, their mentality, you can see it. You know, every time we lose, we transition into off possession. We sit back and we drop and we drop and we drop. And that's all they're doing right now. And then then the opposition just pressure us, high press us constantly all over the park. They shut down those passing channels from the middle, and we can't get out. That's when the mistakes come. That's where the goals leak. And like you just said there, you know, with our players, we should be scoring goals for fun. You know, like we used to. We used to score goals for fun, and we can't even get into the final third right now. You know, when we do get in the final third, we look pretty good, because the first half against Wolves, we pushed up nice and high. We had a high back line. We run everything down in their third. We chased everything down, and we looked really, really good. And I think I highlighted it to you guys. And if you watch Stellini, and Conte does this as well, and I've noticed it, is the minute that we lose possession over the halfway line, the arms go out to the side. And it's like as if to say, like, hold. Like, don't do anything, hold. And so everyone kind of stops. And then they drop back into that 5-4-1. And Sonny just doesn't really know what to do. Kane's kind of just trying to be the outlet. And like you said there, managers have cottoned onto it. And it's easy to play against. It's so easy to play against.
And I think any argument of Conte, you know, we should stick with this project longer. And I've seen it, a lot of people still in that camp. I get it. We don't want to do the upheaval and start all over again. But the fact is, he is not going to stay. He wants to be with his daughter. He wants to be with his wife. He said his club is in Milan. The assistant manager just said we can't wait to have Conte back for the remainder of the season, which you could probably argue might be a translation thing, you know, English being a second language. But to me, that just speaks of oops, I said it out loud. Like setting the expectations there, they're off. And you can tell Conte deserves time to rest. He puts a lot into his job. But equally, I can't help but feel if he was truly invested, he would have been back a few days sooner. But he knows that this job is not more important than things back home, which is completely understandable. And as fans, you've been through it as Milan fans, surely when you have that manager, you know is not the one and they're not going to be there. Why are you wasting time sticking with that person? And then we're going to get into a whole Leave Eve debate because is it to save money, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get into that on this episode.
So, Jim, do you mean that you would prefer to change in March rather than in the summer? So immediately change.
Most fans wanted him after. That was kind of the final nail in the coffin for many fans, the weekend. They wanted him gone this morning and they wanted someone else in the post for the Milan game, because and we're going to now lead into the Milan game with this naturally, because the last hope of our season is beating Milan. No one cares about finishing fourth anymore. Like, few people do. because it makes commercial sense long term, and we need that money to progress. And we're having to compete with Man City, Man United, blah blah blah. We need the money. I get it, but we want a trophy. We haven't had one in over 20 years, like a major proper trophy, and this is our last hope. And we feel a new manager gives you a bounce. It gives you optimism. It means that you could have the Di Matteo moment with Chelsea or the Tuchel moment with Chelsea, where you come into a club who's down on their knees, you fill them with confidence, and somehow you pull off the impossible. And I think everyone's living on that dream at the moment with our fans.
The thing is, I don't think it's necessarily like we don't want top four, because even if we don't beat Milan, we still have to finish fourth. Otherwise, our season is just been destroyed, because next year, how are we going to bring in these centre-backs that we want, these goalkeepers want, without Champions League football? And that's not the goal. Fourth place isn't, I'm not in that camp where I settle for fourth place by any means, but that has to be a minimal target for us every single year. We have to beat Milan and we have to finish top four. I think if we beat Milan and we go through the Champions League final and we finish fifth or sixth, I still think that we have fouled in the season. Even if we win the Champions League, okay, great, because we're still going to qualify for next season if we win it. But we have to make sure we secure Champions League football next season, because we are just not going to bring those players in. I can't remember who it was last summer. We signed someone on the basis we had Champions League football. And I can't remember who it was, so don't quote me on that. But I just remember reading the report that he came to us over another club because of Champions League football. So I'm not one of the Spurs fans that I settle for fourth place by any means. But we have to finish there. It's just a disaster at the minute, isn't it?
I agree. I think we have to finish top four, especially if it means that's not Newcastle getting the top four, because I think it would be an absolute disaster if we don't get top four and Newcastle do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep,
that's a very good point. And on that note, this is a slight sidetrack, but what are you making in Serie A of this money, seeing clubs like Newcastle now, and you're already looking at the Premier League and going, it's obscene how much money they can spend. And
it's obscene.
Newcastle, if they get Champions League, they're going to be spending 150 million a year on transfers or whatever. Like, what do you make of it as fans in Serie A?
Well, Serie A is far, far, far away from the budget of some of the Premier League teams, but even I think even from Brighton or from Bradford. So the main differences are not only the how can I say, the property money, but also the money related to TV, the money related to the stadium. So the Serie A in general, the teams in Serie A in general are a bit far away from a real sustainable model from a business point of view, an economic point of view. So there is still a huge gap. The only exception is Naples, that it was quite lucky because they sold two players very, very expensive, like Koulibaly and Insigne. They bought two players very cheap, and they are performing great, like Kim and Kvaratskhelia. But it's just an exception, and I don't think he can stay for long, so it's not sustainable. Maybe next year Osimhen will move because I don't think they will keep it. Kvaratskhelia in 2-3 years, I hope he will join Premier League to you because he's a great player. And so the distance is so much. That's why, coming back to AC Milan, the beating Tottenham and passing this side of the Champions League tournament will help a bit our team and our AC Milan as a company for next year, because it means something like 9-10 million euro of intro, and it will really help. And we know we are struggling to keep Leao into our teams, despite there are a lot of claiming of him playing in Premier League. And coming back to Newcastle is I don't know if it's a real enemy, a threat, or it's just a bubble.
I saw Amanda Staveley is going off topic, but she was saying that their kind of chief of all this exercise was saying, oh, we're not owned or anything to do with the Saudi government. We are just a pension fund, a small innocent pension fund that's getting mixed up with unfair media attention. And we've just planned. Anyway, I don't want to go off. So,
Come on.
Luca, does it give Italian sides a bigger motivation when they come up against English sides? Do you want to just, because they have the money, does it give kill the arrogance kind of thing?
Well, not. It's not a matter of that. It's just a matter of showing that even the past golden years when Serie A was even a bigger system than Premier League was great. Now, for sure, Premier League is a bigger universe. And there is a bit of, not a matter of arrogance, so to beat the arrogance, but it's a matter of being bold and being value also, showing the Italian value somehow. And the main also difference, apart from money, that we can easily see from every match is the speed. The speed in Premier League is twice or three times faster than the speed in the Italian Serie A. And this is a big trouble for us.
I mean, you are still seen as an enormous club, by the way. Like, when I think of maybe it's the time I was born, but I was always playing as AC Milan growing up through school on FIFA and those games. You had like Nesta, Maldini, Kaká, Seedorf, Ronaldinho, like the list goes on forever. Like Dida in goal, wasn't it? Like you have some seriously Cafu, like you were like, and it was just the San Siro and the cool kit and everything about you was amazing. And that's why I want to go on to the next question. Tottenham, where are we in the eyes of other European leagues? Are we just some random name that pops up occasionally in the Champions League? Like, because we haven't won the Champions League, right? So I assume we are nowhere near the scale of brand in that competition as you. But where do you see us as a club?
Well, Tottenham is famous, very famous in Italy. What is really surprising a lot of Italian supporters, sorry guys to be rude, is that you only won 2 league and no Champions League and so on. Okay, you went in the final in 2019. So there is a huge gap between the name of Tottenham and Spurs around the world and the trophy, the trophy in your bacheca, because I'm sorry to be
the trophy joke. No, it's true. Yeah, we are sick of the trophy joke, and it goes all the way over to Italy now. It's not just our media trolling us.
Because I can tell you, Tottenham is respected, is loved from some people here. I can say, generally speaking, there are more Tottenham supporter than Arsenal supporter in Italy for sure. Despite there are so many people that are. Sorry.
Is that because of Conte?
No, not because of Conte, because of historical, maybe because of the game and so on. And despite there are so many that are, let's say, supporting Liverpool or Man United or now recently City. But on the Italian eyes, is a good team. Is a team to respect and so on. It's strange for me. It's really strange, guys. Again, I don't want to make you cry, but it's so sad that you didn't win a lot, because I was super happy and proud and lucky to win and see 5 Champions League with my eyes when I was a kid.
5.
And 5 with my eyes. With my eyes. So we won 7, and luckily I saw 5 AC Milan captain raise the cup 5 times.
5.
And I also lost.
Well, Luca, have you ever seen your captain lift the Audi Cup?
Yeah, we won the Audi Cup, mate.
Honestly, I don't even know what the Audi Cup is.
Can you imagine seeing 5 Champions League trophies at Tottenham?
For me, a kind of suggestion that I don't know, your company, your club should do is to focus on Premier League. Why you are not? So even here, Liverpool was winning Premier League after 20-something years. This is something that you must do. You must, rather than a cup.
It's not that easy. If you think
I know it's not easy, but even Leicester did it.
Capito, but that was
Leicester did it.
the fluke year that nobody that year scored any points.
Yeah, why cannot happen with Tottenham?
Yeah, because the year after we finished with 86
it's something
points.
that you deserve, I
and
think.
Of course, I think it's the highest points before Liverpool that a team managed to finish runner-up with 86 points in the Premier
And we
League.
lost to Conte's Chelsea, didn't we?
But I can feel that you prefer a trophy, a cup, rather than the Premier League.
Definitely.
I don't know. Hey, why?
Well, no. Okay, there's two answers to that.
I don't know.
I want to hear Deej's view because Deej, you're like newer into the fact. I'm probably a few years ahead I've experienced Tottenham, so I've kind of like patience is worn down to the point where logic has gone out the window now. It's just like, give me a cup. I don't care how we get it.
Okay.
I don't care of the pain that happens anymore. What's your view, Deej, on what's more important?
I think it would be absolutely wonderful to win absolutely anything with any real value. Like, I think back under Poch, I was more receptive to the fact of who cares about the League Cup. Like the FA Cup, I kind of care about. It's a great trophy to win, but we should be competing for Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. Now I would kill someone for a League Cup. Like we're just in a point where it feels like we're reaching for things that we can't really get. And by reaching for the things we can't get, we lose out on the things we maybe could. Like we should have progressed in the FA Cup this year farther than Sheffield and played Blackburn in the quarterfinals. We should have probably not sacked Jose the 6 days before a cup final. Though, to be fair, I think that kind of piece of rhetoric kind of forgets how absolutely terribly we were playing under Jose. 3 months before that, so I kind of understand that one a little bit more. But it would just be so nice to win anything. And I think at some point it was fine to focus because we were like consistent top 2-3 in the Prem, and we made a Champions League final, fluke or not. So it was fine to, I think, focus on those then. But like at this point, we just need something. We just need anything.
What do you make, Dan and Stu? Go on, Dan. I see you're ready to answer that.
So it's a tough one for me. I'm 40 years old. I've supported Spurs since like the day I think I was born. My dad put me in a Spurs kit. So I've seen some good times. I've seen some really, really, really bad times, and I've seen where we're at now. Don't get me wrong, would I want to win something? 100% I would do, but I don't think we should compromise elsewhere just for the sake of winning a League Cup, for example. I know people will say, oh, well, that means that you'd rather win the League Cup. I'm not one of those that says, I want to win the League Cup and then I don't care where we finish in the league. Because, as I pointed out earlier, we still have to focus on the league because we still need to attract players to grow. I think if we go win the League Cup, what's the next big thing? It's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not a big enough trophy. We've won a tin pot trophy. That's what it's going to be. I don't know where it ends. If I'm perfectly honest, I don't know what point we're going to get at where the fans say, do you know what? I am happy we're at this level now. I don't know what that level is right now. We win a League Cup, we're going to be, hey, you won something. Well, it wasn't good enough. We win the FA Cup. Whoa, you haven't won the League Cup, or you haven't won the Champions League. I think the only way that we as fans can be really happy right now is if we actually win something, but we're still performing well in other areas. If we win the League Cup and we finish third in the league, maybe get to the semi-final of the FA Cup, do well in the Champions League, I think that's a really good season. But I think if we just went and win the League Cup, but we've gone out to Sheffield United again, or we've been knocked out of the Champions League and we finished 7th or 8th, that isn't a success in my eyes. That's we've not done well, because then how do we go on from that? How do we then progress?
Yeah.
So for me, I think that we have to win something, but at the same time we have to perform well in other areas as well.
Agree that. And Stu, I want to ask you next, because you kind of touched on it's not that easy to Luca earlier with the money side against Man City, etc. We can't load a bench with 7 and Ndombele equivalent signings that flopped and just leave them there and hope they come good later on. So we have to prioritise certain competitions. So where's your head at with this? Where do we prioritise?
I mean, just also going back to we were saying before, like I grew up in Eindhoven supporting PSV. and I lived in Milan, and I used to go to Champions League games with Luca. So I've seen Milan raise Champions League. I've seen PSV win the Champions League. The team I want more than anything to win something of importance is Spurs, and it frustrates the hell out of me that we haven't been able to do it. And as you referred to before, I mean, like saying to Luca, it's not that easy because what was Man City's average points finish tally in the league for the last 4 or 5 years? It's in the 90s.
Like 90 something, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that easy to win the league. So I think at this point we have got to get a mentality, because I do believe, you know, we it's not all Levy's fault, it's not all the players' fault, it's not all the coaches' fault, it's a combined thing. And I think there's some kind of malaise in our club affecting the mentality. And until we win something and we get that winner's mentality in the club, nothing's going to change. And if it's winning a League Cup is good enough for Guardiola to start that roller, you know, that train of winning everything, why don't we do that? Let's just put all our eggs in one basket. We should have gone for the FA Cup.
I'm still so angry about that. Like,
but I understand. I understand that, Stu and guys, but the set through, despite who will win on Wednesday, how likely are we to win the Champions League? Because for me, City, Bayern, and Naples are the three candidates.
Exactly. I agree. And that's why I said we should have gone for the FA Cup, because you said we're not going to win the Champions League. Milan is not going to win it. I mean, let's be honest.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you.
You say that, but I've witnessed, and the reason I watched this that year so closely was because every fibre of my body was like, please don't let Chelsea win the Champions League. While there's a rule which is going to change next year that prevents us being in the Champions League, even though we finish fourth, if they win it, and watching probably the shittest team in the whole competition with the worst manager in the whole competition just stumble through it, like Messi missing penalties and Torres going from being the most out of form player from the best player in the Premier League to like rounding the keeper, and that lob from their defensive midfielder, I forget who. I just can't we do that? Like, we were shit when we made the final. Ironically, the worst year we've ever had domestically was the best year we've ever had in the Champions League.
But we had so much passion. We had so much passion.
Yeah, but we also had so much luck. If you remember the Ajax games, in both legs they hit the woodwork. Both legs. We got through by the skin of our teeth, and we got played off the park against City. Let's be honest about that as well. We got lucky, I think, 2 rounds in a row, and our luck just ran out. I mean, that's a Sissoko thing.
But look at the mindset of our players. Then the mindset of them, the mentality. You know, I know we got lucky. I know that I hit the woodwork a few times, and we did play poorly, and we had a poor run into it. But it was just that never give up attitude. That fight for everything, I mean, we've all probably watched the Lucas's Moura goal against Ajax, the final one, probably thousands of times. Yeah. We're probably watching it repeated now just to feel a bit good about Spurs, right? But it's that I can't see us doing that right now. I can't see where that fight and passion would come from anybody. You know, it's been drained out of us. I think Jose drained it out of us, and now Conte's drained it out of us. Like, I can't see him.
Just for context, Luca, on Conte draining it out of us, he's never once said, I'm committed to the project. He's never said, what upsets us most is he's never said, I want to be here. It really feels like he was out of a job at a moment and he tried to avoid us and said no to us. Then we dumped the girl we went to after him, and we came back and he was still available and no one else wanted him. So he just came to us and thought, it's a job. I'll sign up.
Exactly. Don't forget, Conte is really selfish. So he's able to try to build a team that is running, but is running for him. So it's not running for something or for a trophy. It's really selfish. So in the end, he has to feed his ego rather than let's say make the fan happy. And this is strange. In fact, despite even if we lost, even if AC Milan is not high like in the last couple of years, the relationship between the fan like me and Pioli, our trainer, is still so great because he's really you feel like a family, really inside the family. Conte, I think he never joined the Spurs family. It seems to me, at least.
It's weird when he leaves a club. All the fans seem happy, and I'm like, why are you happy? He just won you a title for the first time in X years, and you all want him gone, even though your football regresses for 12 months after because you've got to rebuild it.
Because he's selfish. It's really it doesn't build a great link between the team and the fans, between himself and the fans. It's just himself if he win.
Luca, don't you think also the fact that Milan was smart bringing in Maldini, it also helped to create that unity with the fans and
Absolutely
everybody
smart.
pushing in the right direction?
What was strange is that until Galliani was there, Maldini was not in the company, in the structure of the because they fight. What was strange is having Maldini out of the AC Milan structure. Like, for instance, Totti is out from as Roma. He has to come back inside the society as soon as possible, because these are not the heart, the soul of the team, the soul of the historical knowledge of AC Milan, the historical knowledge of Rome, and that's it. So for sure, Maldini is helping a lot, transferring the spirit of AC Milan into the team player, the other colleague, the fan, and you already know that he will try to do his best for AC Milan.
And I wanted to ask one more question on Milan because we've got about 8 minutes left, and then we have a few questions that people put in on Twitter and stuff. But where's the confidence of you as an AC Milan? What's your expectation of Wednesday
for the match?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a bit scared. Most of all related to the speed of the Tottenham team players, at least at the first 20 minutes. At the same time, I'm pretty confident about our left side. You know, Theo and Leao, they are very strong. If they can link together and be, luckily they're in a good shape. Leao yesterday was breathing because he was he didn't play because of a yellow card. And to be honest, during the first match, the first leg, Romero was suffering Leao a lot. So it was really a pain in the ass for him. So what we can say is I'm pretty confident about our left side, and hoping to be in line. I can say I can forecast a kind of draw, because we are not in a great shape like you, but we are solid. Despite Tomori this year in defense is not as good as the previous years, but we just discovered Theo is a 21 years old guy coming from Schalke 04, the German one, and he's very he's strong. He's a kind of wall. It's not easy to pass him in defense. So I'm full of hopes. As usual, I'm optimistic by nature. And sorry, guys, but obviously my heart says Milan. Despite I'm pretty sure that if we pass the turn, we will only do other 2 matches, and then we will say goodbye to the trophy, because we are still not at the same level of some other teams. For me, Bayern Munich, even this year, is so strong.
What changed? Because last year you won Serie A, right? And you were flying.
Yes,
so I know you had injuries and you had these issues, but those players are back now. So why
but
can't
for
you
me,
go on and win the Champions League?
We were discussing 1 month ago, me and Stuart, about that, because for me there was some. So for sure, the World Cup in the middle of the season creates some issue. Is a matter of physical shape, but also mental shape, because I can say it was clearly, at least at the beginning of the season, that Leao Still his mind flying away about the contract. He has still a penalty of 19 million euro to pay after he moved back from Sporting. So it's not the contract situation with Leao is not easy, and is not solved. And this is impacting, however, on the mindset of a player. Last year, he was always, if you can see any match of AC Milan last year, it's also funny because every match, Leao was not smiling, laughing. If he wanted to beat a corner, he was laughing. Every time he was really laughing. This year is not smiling a lot. And this is impacting for sure. So it's a matter of physical shape because of the World Cup, we have some injury and so on, and mental shape because I also feel that because this year is an exception and Naples is doing a championship by himself, so the gap is too high, so they lost a bit of momentum, a bit of focus into the Serie A, because last year it was really a matter of focus. So every second, so we were beat hand in hand with the shitty Inter, and finally but this was keeping everyone alive. So you could see the famous fire in the eyes. The fire in the eyes this year is not so visible.
It's not so much. And I want to ask the rest of the guys what their predictions are for just a couple of minutes each on where you think the game's going to go. And just before I do that, I just want to just ruin your weekend a little bit more. Man United are losing 3-0 to Liverpool. So
I can see.
Wow.
I can see.
Yeah, unexpected result. Everything's going Arsenal's way this weekend. But anyway, so I'll just start from who's next to me on the screen. So Dan, do you want to just give your view on where you think the game's going to go on midweek?
I'm really not confident, at all. I will be come Wednesday. I'll be hopeful. I'll be optimistic. I'm an optimistic person. So by Wednesday, I will be feeling that because Spurs fans, it's the hope that kills us, right? But if we set up the way we went in the first set, same as the first leg, same as Sheffield United, same as Wolves, same as we've done every single game, I can see it being, a really abysmal night and us losing 2 or 3-0 on the night. I hate to say it, but that's how I feel at the minute. I just can't see how we can win that game. I hope we do. I'm praying we do, but I just can't see it right now, to be honest. And I hate to be negative and that way, but it's just how I feel right now. I just can't see it.
I have similar feelings. This might be Conte's nail in the coffin. But anyway, Stuart, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I said before, I think if we don't get a goal in the first 30 minutes, then Milan will sit back and they will see out the game. I think if we do get a goal, it's Spurs, it'll go to penalties, and then it goes to penalties. Who knows? The only thing I could say is I'm, from a Spurs perspective, I'm really upset that Tatarusanu is no longer going to be playing, because if he was, I'd be confident of going through.
Luckily, Maignan is back. Yeah. So, do you think it's likely a kind of goodbye from Conte if you lose?
If he loses us 3-0, he's gone, I think.
Yeah.
But what do you think, Deej? Do you think this is the end if he loses?
I think so, just because he's kind of gone in the summer anyway. It's so frustrating because I said this in WhatsApp last night, but I would take these growing pains if I knew we were growing to somewhere. But with Conte not committing to staying past the end of the season, it's just pain for nothing. And then we leave, and then we're stuck with having to go get a manager who plays a very specific style of football to fit the players that we've bought, both specifically, we have very attacking wingbacks on both sides, which kind of necessitates a 3-back formation, especially with the center backs we currently have. Not saying we won't upgrade that in the summer, but yeah, it kind of does feel like the end, just because the end's coming anyway. Why
drag it out?
Why drag it out exactly?
So
Yeah, I agree.
we had two quick questions for the end because we've got about 2 minutes left. They're pretty depressing questions, and I'd like to finish on a positive note if we can somehow spin this around. But sorry if you can hear my son screaming in the background, by the way. But Ian Evans just says, "What's the point?" Does anyone have any? And I do have a feeling on this, Ian. Like, I appreciate you're really, 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 really fucked off with the situation, but we're more miserable than ever. But we've never had in our history before this, like 10 years of consistently in the top six. It seems like as we've increased as a caliber as a club, our expectations have risen. We've felt more disconnected with the club than we ever have before. Mm-hmm. And that is partly associated to the football we experienced under Nuno, Jose and Conte all in a row. Like, I think when we just go back to some attacking football, which we surely will next, I think there's going to be a newfound optimism, and finally our expectations are where they probably should be. Because if your expectation is to be, it's all well and good saying we can finish above City, Liverpool, Man United, who all have revenues of over 200 million more than us a year, or 150 each more than us a year, right? That's a massive gap. And then you've obviously got Arsenal and everyone else in that. You can finish above 2 or 3 of them a year, but to finish above all 5 in a single season to win a trophy is a massive ask. And I think like we could be a little bit more positive about the fact we normally beat 2 or 3 of those clubs, and we're building to a point where we're probably going to get bought out in the next 2 or 3 seasons. And as long as that's the right person, you'll suddenly find yourself being like, now we've got that extra 100 million quid to put on the bench. But I don't want to get into the whole ownership discussion. Anyone else want to add anything on that? Any optimism or...
Remember when Pochettino used to play a 3-back?
The Champions League to play.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, good point. I like that. But look, we're still in the Champions League. We're only 1-0 down. You know, we've come back from games before. Even though Liverpool are coming on a bit of a run, you know, we've lost however many games, but we're still 4th. We're playing terrible, and we're still there in the mix. You know, if we do get the new manager bounce, fantastic. You know, if Conte decides to all of a sudden actually tactically change things during a game and respond to game situations, great. You know, we're still there. We still have something to fight for. And, you know, with Tottenham, I'm sure is going to be hopeful regardless of it, right? You know, it's just the way it is, isn't it? We're going to be hopeful. We're going to want the best for our team. I think we have still got something to fight for and play for. Pochettino has played a back 3 beforehand. I do think, even though we do have attacking wing backs, I still think that we can play a back 4 with them, because you'll just have kind of rotate. You'll have maybe Porro one side, Davis the other side, so they can Porro pushes on, I'll step across into a 3, or if Royale's playing, or Perisic pushes up, or vice versa, so it can still work as a back 4. Let's see what happens Wednesday.
Deej, I think you had a point as well.
Yeah, I think that regardless of whether or not Conte stays, I do think that our buys, despite being kind of maligned, have been smart. We've bought young players who will only get better. Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie will be great wing backs, or I guess, left, right back, if we end up playing in a back 4. But I think that we are headed in the right direction. I think it's slower than we wanted, and because we kind of had this constant, steady upward momentum for the last, 5-10 years before this slump, our expectations have kind of kept going like this, where we've kind of curved off to flattened a little bit, and that's just because it's hard to take that last leap. But I think we are building to that. One can only hope that we eventually get there.
Yeah, I think that is key. I think, if you say that money counts as the 5th, 6th largest turnover, par is 5th and 6th, and quarterfinals and cups. So I think we've lost a little bit of connection to reality. As DJ said, with the great results we've been having over the last 5 to 10 years before the Nuno.
Sometimes it's a matter also of lucky combination of the stars. look at the Leicester case of Sampdoria, Verona case in the past year. So, guys, I really wish you could win something. I hope that Zerbi will join your bench, to be honest, because he's a very great trainer. And I really wish you to win some trophy next year, because it's you deserve it. I remember last year we won the Serie A after 11 years, and we celebrate. In Milan we celebrate for 1 week, and we were celebrating all. I stay around from 2:00 in the morning after the match till 2:00 in the night. So you really deserve to celebrate. Believe me, I do hope so.
Yeah. And Mix, we did get your question, by the way, about what's the manager's excuse going to be next, but I think we want to pull this into some positivity to finish. So we'll bring that one up next time. But Luca, thanks so much for joining. And
it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, thank you. And
I did enjoy.
Yes. Well, good luck beyond Wednesday.
Good luck to you as well. Yeah, the only safe is Stewart. So despite who will win, it could be safe.
Can we actually have one last question for you, actually, just to finish it off? I'll be really interested. What is the percent? So our fan base are miserable with life, right? At the moment, do we come across self-entitled, or are we right to be angry from an outside fan who doesn't, follow our club directly?
For me, you mean?
As someone who doesn't support Tottenham, do our fans come across like they should be angry and frustrated, or do they come across like they've got a situation that's pretty good and they should be more happy with their situation?
The second one. So we are in a very lucky position in this period between the relationship between the fan and the team. So that's why maybe sometimes we have less expectation and high emotion, because despite the result will be positive or negative, the fan will still support the team. There is no, let's say, negative critics. It will be positive critic. Yesterday the defense was horrible. Tomori played badly. Even sometimes Pioli is mismatching the substitution. But despite we will win or lose on Wednesday, the feedback will be good. So at least this is good.
To answer your question, Jim, I got a WhatsApp from Luca last week when we were bitching about the FA Cup defeat, and he was like, "I don't understand what you guys are complaining about."
Yeah, I feel that you, I mean, all the fans, the Spurs fan, are very critical with the team. I know that you are frustrated because you're not winning anything since a while, but there are, or maybe, I don't know, it's typical from being a Spurs fan to be very hypercritic, something like that. I don't know. So in our case, the AC Milan fans are more tender with the team when they're doing all their best, when they're running and they're doing whatever they can according to their ambitions. Maybe you know that they could do better. I know, but you are very hypercritic for me.
Yeah, I think that may come from us being hyper-criticized from everywhere else. Because I've brought this up before. Like that fan poll that came out like 3 years ago, we're like 3 clubs in the Premier League's biggest rival that kind of, and those other clubs have been successful except for West Ham, because
but that's such a good point as well, Deej. And doesn't it get in our heads the trophy joke?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Look, we have the trophy joke that Tottenham don't win trophies, but no one cares that Everton, Aston Villa, West Ham, all these, like everyone outside the top 5 has had longer trophy droughts than us, and Leicester had the one exception. Like we have 14 plus major trophies, if I get top of my head. But we get the stick as the bottle jobs. Like you have a West Ham fan who's got 1 trophy ever in major trophy in the entirety of the club. Us have like over 14 trophies, them going like, empty trophy cabinet. And I think over time it wound us up to the point where we're just miserable and fed up with it. But anyway,
Well,
No, I agree. I think it's because we've I think also it's a good point because, you know, we've pushed ourselves into the mix. You know, so we are recognised now as fans. Other fans won't want to admit it, but we are recognised in that mix. Otherwise, they wouldn't care about the fact we haven't won a trophy because they're saying the same about Everton, Villa, you know, whoever else has had a longer trophy drought than us, but they don't. So it just shows we are in that mix. You know, we are there, but I'm fed up of being a nearly there club. I just want to be a consistently good club in every competition, winning trophies. I don't care if we, you know, win 2 or 3. I'm not talking about that. 1 trophy here or there, but consistently at that high level, you know, we've been great. We had the chances under Poch, you know, a couple of finals there, didn't do it. If we'd have won those, story right now would be completely different.
Agree, Dan. I'm sorry, guys, we have to end the call because we've hit max time, but awesome chat.
Okay.
Loved it. And thank you so much for everyone for joining.
Thank you.
I'm just going to...
Even 1 hour is
guys.
not enough. Talking about football.
I know.
For
Tell me
me.
about it.
2-3 hours we should do.
Yeah. I'll stop the recording there.
And I will